So welcome to Art 116. What I'd like to do this morning is look at some of our Tetrad paintings again really quickly because more of them have come in to give us a chance to review them a little bit, and then talk a little bit more about subjective painting, see if I can do yet another demonstration for subjective painting, and maybe we'll have something that is suitable for sharing with each other. So I wanted to share this screen and talk about this thing right here. If I can click on it and drag it down a little bit, yay, up, drag it back up, drag it in the middle. You're killing me here. Okay, so I got to move you guys out of the way so that we can see this. I'm going to try to, as carefully as possible, move this up just a little bit. God, it doesn't like to move, does it? Okay, let's make it a little smaller. Okay, that's good. So, putting on your critiquing hats for a minute, I'd like to talk about this one from the general towards the specific. I was wondering if you notice anything about this one, if anything jumps out at you, and if you have, you can always talk about your favorite apple in the bunch and why. I'd like to know which is your favorite, and then if you can identify the why, that would be good. And I'll try to do the best I can to point at things with the pointer so that we can all kind of catch up and stay with you wherever your attention is directed. So anybody, please unmute your mics and weigh in on this one. Let's see, what are the colors? Yellow, red, orange, and blue. And I detect some violet, some like red violet, possibly in the shadows, the cast shadows behind or underneath the. So we got something going on there. Anybody, you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if you just kind of talk about what you like. You don't have to even talk about what you don't like. Do you have a favorite piece of fruit?
I like the one in the right corner with all the dots.
This one over here?
Yep.
Second row, right-hand side, all the dots. So what is it about that that's different from all the other ones? Is it that it has more dots in it?
Yeah, it could get more.
And so you must have become one of the believers in dots, because I think that part of the problem with this project is that some folks were fighting the idea of dots and interspersing dots, while others embraced the idea a lot better. So this one, we've got some really wonderful use of color in a lot of the different apples. In terms of the project, this apple right here does a lot better job of interspersing dots into the shadows, the crescent-shaped shadow over here, to have a smattering of dots here where the highlight goes, to have a smattering and some interspersion of dot and color in the depressed area where the stem end of the apple goes. And for some reason, these chunky shadow areas really do, in an abstract way, give us a three-dimensional sense of the apple. This apple feels really round and three-dimensional like a sphere, and it really has to happen when all of these different features are working in concert with each other to make that happen. Is that what you're seeing, Christina? I'm gonna try to see if I can get you to confirm any of this, or do you just like the dots?
It gives it more like shape. I don't know. I like the blue dots, how it makes it, I don't know how to explain it, but to me it makes it more. Okay,
can I shovel a couple of ideas at you and see if you'll agree with any of them? Do the blue dots bring it more to life, possibly, because there's just a little bit more going on in there? It breaks up stuff. It might even create some sense of maybe implied movement or motion in the apple.
Yeah.
So and that goes beyond the idea of just the highlight the shadow, the crescent shaped shadow, and a cast shadow. There's also just something that gives it just a little bit more pizzazz, a little bit more life. And so that's why this apple is working really good, because we've still got, the string of pearls effect over here with reflected light on this side. And just these few little smattering of little dots over here are working for me. That's working good. But I also like the middle apple in the front row because of all of these things that are still working together. And we've got some dots doing their dot thing. Yellow on top of the orange here, which kind of breaks up the light a little bit. Orange on top of the yellow over on this side. Again, just kind of breaks it up and adds a little bit of life to it. I don't even know if that's a legit way to talk about it. Is adding life to something a real critique term? But the idea of possibly just making it more interesting, breaking up some of the shapes with the tinier dots, getting things to feel more integrated. That's kind of where we're headed with this. So I do like also the edges of the pools of light that have the diffused edge, to have some kind of sense of dots going around the outside edge to diffuse and break up that edge is kind of helpful too. And then of course, if it were me, I would maybe have some interspersed dots diffusing into the background too, to try to break up the strength of the blue. But I also know that, people run out of time on this. And after you've got 6, 7, 8 hours of painting into this thing, people do tend to run out of time and run out of enthusiasm for the piece. Did anybody find that to be the case? Because I really need some serious feedback on that. Was this a hard project because after 4 hours, it was like, what else can I possibly do with this thing? I'm getting a few head nods in the classroom for that. Anybody online feeling like that? Or in the case of Christina, I know you're just going to say you're just totally jazzed about it because the more dots you make.
I've been having fun with it because it's different. I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
Okay, so this appeals to the weird. Okay, you're not weird. You're just, let's come back to the classroom. I want to do another screen share before moving on to something else. And let's try this one. So, do I have a thing that makes this bigger? I do, so I can kind of make it bigger. I can make this thing. We're good here. We're good. So, from the general towards the specific, we got apples, we got dots. And some of you may say, well, James, this is what happens when you go nuts with dots. And I would love it if you guys could actually explain what I mean by that. What has happened when we go nuts with dots?
It's overpowering.
It's a little overpowering. Okay.
It's very overwhelming almost.
Okay, well, I think what's happening is we sometimes lose, you can't see the forest for the trees, we lose our edges. The edges become a little bit more indistinct. The emphasis becomes in the yellow areas of light, which is nice. And even in our kind of pool of light, it might be nice to come back with a little bit more yellow in the middle of this and take some bites out of some of these other dots with some fresh yellow dots, taking half of a bite, kind of like Pac-Man, out of each one of these in the middle to strengthen that sense of yellow and then let it disperse out from the center of the pool of light. But yeah, I think we've tried maybe here. I can't tell what this is, if these are actually dots or if this is just white paper showing through. But this little arc right here of teeny tiny little features is doing the same or similar thing that I was interested in with that string of pearls effect, giving a little bit of a reflected light and some edge lighting to our edge up here. We've got that happening right through here, through this area, a real strong sense of an edge. But in some places, and we have an edge here, but somehow, this one is pretty round and pretty strong. It might be getting a little bit long in the corner down here where we're getting a little bit out of round, just right here in this corner. If we could just kind of bring this corner this around and bring it back in again, this would be a lot rounder. So it's the shape, if we lose our edge, or if our shape gets just a little bit out of round, we can run into a little bit of trouble. And even here with this cast shadow that's kind of sticking out behind this apple here on all the paintings, sometimes it's hard to manage that cast shadow. And I've been known, even with that cast shadow, to put a string of pearls of yellow dots or orange or whatever I happen to be working with as a high key warm color around this thing, just to define the edge of that shadow and to try to differentiate it from the rest of the intermediate kind of shadows that are in the backgrounds and off to the sides and in between the pieces of fruit. But I mean, overall, this person is doing exactly what I asked and exploring what different densities of color are going to do when they get interspersed with each other. So that's good. It's actually a pretty fun painting. And you can always come back and fix some things if you think they need fixing. This is still a good painting. It's probably better in person than it is online, and suitable for framing. So I want to encourage this person to think about framing this piece and giving it to a loved one, a significant other, or keeping it for your own damn self, because that's a nice painting just to hang in your kitchen, over the stove or something like that. So we're a quarter after the class, and I think I wanted to go from this little thing, which did a little bit more for us in terms of critiquing the last project, into one more demo of the next project. Would you guys like to see a demo of another one of these possible templates turned into something colorful? This is where you all say, "Oh yes, please, Mr. Fritz, we'd love to see it."
Always.
Thank you, Christina. I know I could count on you. So I'm going to change cameras and go over to, I've got all my paint set up and everything. So I'm going to go over here and do this. Come on, you. I had to punch it twice just to make it happen. Okay, so we're over here. I'm going to try to talk nicely and maybe with a little less effort so that I don't overblow this thing here. Which one of these do you like better? One of these I painted for the morning class. I think I painted this one with the morning class the other day. This is the afternoon class. This one has black added to the green to give me a shade of green that takes it down a step on the value scale and neutralizes a little bit so that this green doesn't compete as much with this red as this full spectrum, full chroma intensity green interacts with this red, because I've got full spectrum red and I've got full spectrum green. This one's a little thin, and so I've got some paper showing through, but I've got some brush strokes and other things here. Do you guys have any opinions about which background you like better? The green with black or the full spectrum green out of the bottle?
I like the black.
You like the black? Okay, that's good, because I wanted to say that I highly recommend us trying to mix our colors with white or black to somewhat neutralize them. And I use white a lot, because if I take a color, especially a deeper value color, it's going to be a much deeper value on the painting. And so if we want to see the forms better, usually it's nice to tint it up instead of shade it down in terms of legibility, contrast, and that kind of stuff. So I've got black mixed with orange here. I had black mixed with orange in this hair over here, and this is more black with orange than this is. So that's kind of important. It's interesting to see when you punch up the orange just a little bit more, you're going to get more orange and I guess a little bit more color contrast between it and the red and it and the blue, especially when orange and blue are color complements of each other. So there's something a little bit more vivid going on here when this orange is a little bit more orange. It's not full spectrum, full chroma intensity, and neither is the blue. But they are color complements. And so there's a little special thing going on between the orange and the blue here. It's less apparent over here because this orange is really, really neutralized a lot more with more black in it. And perhaps, well, no, this blue is pretty strong. All I've got is just a little deeper blue here for this kind of shadow line around the chin and under the cheekbone and stuff like that. I also went in and kind of played with smile lines a little bit and deepened a little bit of the blue, possibly for eyeshadow. Because even the Wicked Witch of the West is probably wearing good makeup, to look her best when she's going to go terrify Dorothy or something like that. So, but anyway, these were two approaches to that. I'll try something new and completely different here. This is the Botticelli's Birth of Venus, and instead of the full-length nude on the half shell that Botticelli painted, Andy Warhol was interested in just zooming in on the portrait because the portrait is beautiful. Everybody has always admired the portrait of Venus, just the head and the elongated neck with the crazy hair flowing in the wind because she's being blown into shore by the winds, the zephyr winds that are also personified in the painting are blowing her into shore as she's being born. Okay, so how do we play with this? Well, I've got some paint right here, and I might have a little bit of water. I've got two things of water. I got a big thing of water to wash my brush in. I've got a little thing of water that's going to stay clean if I need to thin out some of the paint. I've got lots and lots of paper towels here for brush cleaning and pulling stuff out. For these paintings, I didn't tell you guys last time, but you might want to have a medium-sized brush for mopping in large areas of color, and you might want to have a little bit smaller brush, a pointier brush for trying to manage your details. I'd like you to be as careful and as slow as possible on playing with the details. Even the computer, when it's going through the Photoshop filter that transforms the painting into a line drawing, it blurs the lines and it moves things and it changes the outside contours of the shape. So we have to kind of play with being very careful about not making our shapes too thick, especially the details in the eyes, eyebrows, eyelashes. We want to pay particular attention, if we can, to the details in the original painting so that we can maybe try to get this to look more like Venus and less like a Venus flytrap. Try to make it more look like a beautiful Venus than the Wolfman or some kind of monster. So I just, want to let you know that we can get into trouble really fast with this stuff. So Warhol played with a peach color for the facial features on this, and I might have to do something different. So I'm going to come over into my paint. I hope you guys can see this. And I'm going to play with maybe a little bit of green and a little bit of white, lots of white, little teeny tiny bit of green. I think I'm going to make her green because last time the Wicked Witch of the West originally was green and I had to change her up to blue. So I think I'm going to play with green, a green tinted with white here to see how that's going to go and just mop in some things to get started here. I'm not going to try to cover everything up because it's kind of nice to stay away from all of those details. It's even kind of nice to do this with a fairly, fairly thin, kind of watercolory approach to the color so that we can, maybe see contour lines and features even through the first layer of color. As we continue to do this process and we get 1 or 2 or 3 layers of color in here, we may get to a point where the color is so opaque that we can't see the lines anymore. But this might be a great way to get started here. So I'm going to just kind of mop some of this stuff in here. And when you take a little bit of white and a little bit of green and don't even mix them together on the palette, but mix them kind of on either side of your brush and put them on here. This is her shoulder way over here. So we're going to get a little bit of her shoulder action in here. Okay, and then so that's kind of Venus, and maybe I will try to make her cheek have a little bit of a highlight on it with just a little bit of white. Maybe I'll do a little bit of white highlight on that cheek. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of a white highlight on her forehead, and maybe something, you know, up there where the eyebrow and eyelash area kind of combine. Sometimes people have a little bit of a highlight on their chin or a cleft chin. Sometimes a little bit of a highlight, you know, on the nostrils a little bit, just to break up all of that. The front of the throat sometimes gets a highlight, and maybe the top of the shoulder gets a highlight. So there's all of that. I'm gonna rinse out this brush and change colors. Her hair color traditionally has been an orange blonde hair color. Warhol went with magentas and reds and stuff with some yellow highlights out in the ends, which tends to really make that stuff fly. I like it. What have I got to work with here? I've got yellow, orange, and violet. I've already used green for one thing. Does she want purple hair? I've never tried purple hair before. I'm gonna go, oh, did I say purple? Damn it, I need to put another 25 cents in the swear jar. Okay, I'm gonna throw a whole bunch of white into the edge of my violet thing so that I can get a violet tinged white. It's a really high tint of white of violet, and kind of go in here and just mop this in and see what's going to happen here. Okay, so I'm trying to follow this ropey kind of wonderful movement that happens in this hair. She's out on the ocean, her hair is being blown by the wind, and so there's a lot of movement in the hair, and so I want to put a lot of movement in all of this, doing this kind of action here. Then if I get out to the ends and use a little bit of yellow or orange out there to give me some highlights out there where all of the hair is really whipping around like, I don't know, the ends of a whip. Yellow is the color complement of violet, and yellow and orange both look really good with violet. So I might work that out there into that area of the hair as it goes that way. And so we're just gonna do some of this stuff and some of this stuff and get some movement happening in here. And this is where I want you guys to really unleash your inner painter. You know, try not to approach this stuff too carefully, except maybe around the details of the face, but go big, you know, or go home, you know, follow that and follow the movements and the shapes and stuff, and try to pick up on the stuff that's happening in the painting. And this is all feeling good to me. I'm just going to grab a little bit more white and throw it in here. You can kind of see now what this wet and wet color mixing will do for you. It's really fun. And, you know, when you're painting, we really want you to actually have fun with this. Pull, you know, a color through another color, wet and wet. It can be a lot of fun and very expressive. I want you to be open to the idea of the accidents that can happen when you're painting, because sometimes you'll do a thing unconsciously and it'll be much more successful as a painting element than anything that you can actually plan out and, you know, coldly execute, you know, as an on-purpose kind of a thing. So I just blasted in a whole bunch of moving S-shaped curvy things happening wet and wet in the hair, and you can kind of see how expressive it is. Now I'm going to take a little bit of this orange and maybe see what happens when I just kind of play, you know, this game of trying to find the top contour of each piece of hair and just trying to throw that out there as a thing. Are there questions or comments as I do this? Because it's really hard for me to talk and, paint at the same time. So if you guys have, questions or comments for me, that would be wonderful. This is actually supposed to be one of those over there, and maybe just a little bit of this here. I'm just going to touch it with the tip of the paintbrush, just a little paintbrush tip, and just throw a little bit of an S-shaped art mark in there just for the hell of it, just because I can. And something that maybe follows this area of the hair, because then it can work like a framing device for the face. One of those there and one of those there. I got two of these things on either side of the face that frames the face very nicely. Maybe I need to bring some of this into into the eyeshadow or something because that would be a great way to unify the composition, is to bring some of this orange in here and to the lips. We might try to just do something a little bit with lips. And for those of you who, I'm going to try to get the Cupid's bow thing happening with the lips here, so that the top lip has that little shape to it. And if I screw it up, I'll come back later and I'll fix it. That's the beautiful thing about painting, is that you can always come back and fix the things that mess up with a painting. What else? Maybe I will come in with some black or something to play with the features. Although Warhol did it all with his reds and magentas. All of his little details up here are reds and magentas. But I think I'm going to change brush sizes and go with the smaller brush size, so that I can be a little bit more deft, a little bit more interesting with the lines that I'm going to try to do. So I think I'll try to do them in violet, possibly full strength violet, and just see what happens with some of that. Botticelli put a contour line on the bridge of the nose and contour lines for the nostrils. And so I'm just going to put some contour lines in here for the nostrils, and maybe use violet for some of the shadows on the bottom of the nose, the tip of the nose. And then I'm going to use violet to part the lips a little bit. And, Cupid is actually the son of Venus. And so, Cupid's bow right there gives us a little bit of, Venus too, are really related to each other in Greek mythology. And so we're just going to play this game with some of the contour lines, especially with her body and facial features. And so that's like my first foray into playing with the Botticelli's Venus, but that was kind of fun. I just got to get these eyebrows, and we want to make sure that the eyebrows are smaller than the eyebrows. And maybe, and I just fucked it up, because this part of the eyebrow is supposed to taper to something much smaller, and that got thicker instead. So I'm going to come back and fix that after the paint has dried. I'm going to bring my white and my green back in here and come up here and take a bite out of the thickness of this eyebrow to get that eyebrow to taper, because we really got to want to make sure that our features are complementary and delicate and elegant and look a lot like, as much as possible, Botticelli's Venus. Okay, I'm gonna wash this out. I gotta look at the time. I've been doing this for about 10 minutes, and you guys are probably getting bored. So I should probably, respect your time and attention span. I'm gonna come up here and just try to paint this a little smaller and get rid of some of this stuff here. And what was I going to do? Oh yeah, this side of her neck is so much darker because there's a little bit of shadow here in the original composition. So we want to make sure we're playing with that and get a little shadow in there, a little shadow over here, and a little bit of a shadow on that side of the face, because apparently he put the origin of the light source is coming in from this side and coming straight in. And so the left side of the face, the left side of the neck, the left side of the hair and shoulder in this particular one are in shadow. So that's where the shadows live in this particular thing. So I better learn that and get my shadows going right. Okay, I have one more thing that I want to do here because I just noticed it. I want to try to get with my finer brush and let's do it with violet. I'm going to try to do the actual eyes here. So I'm going to try to do a somewhat heavy lidded, eyes half open kind of Venus because she's just been born. So she's kind of as a goddess, she's waking up for the first time. So her eyes are only half open and she's got, some kind of an eyeball that's coming down like this and another eyeball that's kind of coming down like this. And so her eyes sort of look about half open because she's kind of drunk. She's been out the night before and she really needs some breakfast. Now that got too small, too low, so I'm going to have to paint that out. But anyway, that gives you an idea of what we can expect with playing with this stuff. So that was violet. What happens if I come back in with some green and play around with some green with some of these features? And so you have to play the what if game. What if, we're paying attention to using green for a lot of our shadows and stuff. So I can also come in here with some green where I need to inside the eye a little bit, inside the eye eyelids and features a little bit and see what that's going to be like. Because maybe it'll work and maybe I'll screw it up. But you have to take chances with the painting process because it's fun. And that's what it's all about, is taking a few artistic risks to see what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, there's a first stab at Venus, Botticelli's Venus on the half shell, the birth of Venus, as reinterpreted by Andy Warhol in the inset over here. And then we're going to play this game too. I haven't dealt with the background yet. I would like to choose another color for the background. It looks like Warhol took green and mixed a lot of black with the green to make a green black for the background. And so I might just try that. I might mix black with my green. Why don't I just do it instead of talking about it and mop it in there and see what happens? And so I can bring a lot more green in here because the black is just going to eat up all of the green. And just mop the green in and kind of come in close, but not too close to the hair, because I can always fix that stuff later. And there's a bunch of green sitting right there, and I don't mind it all that much. So I'm going to not change it up very much as I do this. I'm going to leave the Botticelli example in the corner so that I can see it in the future. But I may just want to come in here and get all of this kind of greenish black into the negative spaces here to see if it won't set off the hair just a little bit better by contrast than having the hair done against the white. And so we're going to play this game, mopping it into the negative spaces, not getting all too close to my contour lines or other brush strokes. But, they're going to interact, they're going to overlap a little bit, and then we fix it later on, maybe fix it in post, fix it on the second painting when we come back to it after it's dried, maybe next time. So I'm going to just rinse out this brush and conclude this at this point. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? I asked you guys, nobody ever asked me any questions, but that would be a first stab at Venus on the half shell by Botticelli. And so I'm going to change videos now back to the classroom and say goodbye to you guys. All right, so some folks have or one person has left the classroom. Others are working on their projects or thinking about their projects, trying to figure out what is the next thing we're going to do? How are we going to do this? I do have all of these templates are available here as printed out on cardstock for you so that you can pick them up. I also have the project itself, the Word document printed out with the color images on it, in case anybody who's at home wants to swing by the studio during regular business hours and pick those things up. Otherwise, you guys have a bunch of those things in the coursework. Down at the bottom in the instructions for the coursework, there are a bunch of these documents are attached. So you can print them out on cardstock on your own printer at home and do the painting yourself at home if you are in a remote situation outside of the Coos Bay area. So there's all of that for finishing up this last project. Be bold, don't worry about stuff. And if you feel like you've screwed it up, it's painting. So all you have to do is let it dry for 20 minutes. You can go right back and paint over it again and change your colors or change the shapes of things. And painting is one of the most forgiving and fun things that we can do. So I want to invite you to really interact with the painting process. I don't see any microphones unmuted. And nobody in here is paying any attention to me because they're totally lost in the painting process, which is a beautiful thing. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. And I'll see you guys again on Monday. How about that? I'm going to go over here to the end button.
Have a good weekend.
Oh, have a happy weekend. Thank you.